This week on TBS Storyline.
And now it's up to you to stand up and demand high standards and demand that no child is left behind.
The promise, the impact, and the struggle to make it work.
It's not just a piece of legislation, it's a commitment.
No child left behind.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Myrna Moore. Years after it was signed into law, it remains at the center of debate and controversy. The goal, ensure no child is left behind. The outcome? It may surprise you.
We know what works. The money's now available, and it's up to each local district to make sure it happens. It's up to you, the citizens of Hamilton, to make sure no child is left behind. The federal government can spend money, and we can help set standards, and we can insist upon accountability.
He didn't really like going to school. It was days that he just didn't want to go, and that was unlike him because he did like school. One of his teachers actually called me, and she asked me why we came, because he didn't fit in. He was, all the other kids were behavior problems. They didn't want to learn, they didn't care, and she couldn't teach.
At that school, it was more of like whether or not if you didn't do your classwork, they wouldn't really care, I wasn't really getting what I need to. My grades, they weren't what they need to be, and it was really a challenge for me to get by.
But the truth of the matter is, our schools will flourish when citizens join in the noble cause of making sure no child is left behind.
It was an ambitious plan that promised to transform the American education system. Through proficiency mandates and other benchmarks, it became law and a rallying cry for millions of struggling students like Rahman, ensuring that no child is left behind.
Overall, I think No Child Left Behind is a good thing. It's not just a piece of legislation, it's a commitment to leave no child behind. And that's what we need to do as a state and as a country.
No Child Left Behind outlines several key points for both students and educators. Progress is measured through standardized testing, and students are given a choice if their school falls below expectations.
It made public schools all across our country pay attention to children that I'm afraid that we'd have to admit that public schools maybe have left behind over the years. Children of color, all kinds of groups of children that maybe we didn't do as well as we should have.
According to SAT scores, Georgia's public school system consistently ranks at the very bottom of American schools. No Child Left Behind promises to improve these schools and level the playing field for every student in America.
We're just struggling right now in Georgia with finding adequate funds to educate a very, very rapidly growing and a student population that's becoming much, much more diverse very rapidly also.
What we have learned is in order to close this achievement gap is that you do have to take some very extraordinary steps in the school day so that they learn those skills.
Charter schools like Tech High in Atlanta are successfully meeting the demands of No Child Left Behind. When the school opened, less than a third of students met minimum reading and math standards. Within 1 year, all of these students tested up to grade level. Statistically, this kind of success appears to be the exception, not the norm.
Only 4 out of 14 schools met AYP in the Atlanta public school system, and Tech High was one of those schools. We're able to succeed because we have a lot of parent involvement. We have a small environment, so we're able to keep track of where our students are academically and make sure that we do what's necessary to help them achieve.
Tech High has implemented a few radical changes to the basic public school structure. They employ only highly qualified teachers. Class sizes average just 16 students compared to 35 in public schools. Progress of every student is closely monitored, and uniforms are required.
This is the Tech High uniform.
The uniform period is white or blue collared shirt.
This is a blue shirt.
This is my white shirt.
This is my blue shirt.
The pants have to be navy blue or khaki.
You're not allowed to wear furry boots at all.
These are not furry boots.
When I came to this school, I knew that I would find something here that's going to help me do what I need to do.
Ramon came to us from a low-performing school, is a very eager student, very positive, wasn't comfortable in his prior situation and was achieving, but certainly not to his capacity because he just wasn't expected to.
If I had stayed at my old school, it would become harder for me to maintain college, to be in college, to keep up with my work and classes and stuff. But here, I can do all this now. I learned the things that I need to help me be successful in college.
We have students that came from low-performing schools and have even said to me, and parents have said, my student thought he was just unintelligent. He just thought he wasn't a very smart person. That was his conclusion after being in poor learning environments for his entire life. He said for the first time he feels intelligent.
While Ramon's future seems secure, the future of No Child Left Behind is less assured. Some educators think change is in order.
As a result of No Child Left Behind, it sure does seem like that we have worshiped at the altar of standardized testing for far too long and far too fervently. We're basing our world and our decisions about public education based on standardized testing. The real hope of people in our business has been that you could do it on some sort of a growth model.
In theory, it's great, and every educator is going to agree with having high standards and creating more equity in education in the United States. But there's a lot of criticism in that it's not backed up with the funding that's required. I think over time, it can happen. I think over time it can definitely happen. If there could be a component that makes families accountable, it would work so much better because that's the missing link.
Parents and policymakers alike can, and maybe will, commit to make this noble law work.
And now it's up to you, the local citizens of our great land, the compassionate, decent citizens of America, to stand up and demand high standards and demand that no child, not one single child in America, is left behind. Thank you for letting us come. May God bless.